Hello, I'm Dr. Bill Brennan, lead innovator in Farmingdale Public Schools and the editor for the New York State ASCD Fall Impact Journal. Today, more and more schools and districts across New York State are exploring new pathways to student engagement. In an effort to build on this knowledge, the theme of the New York State ASCD Fall Journal is engaging all students, but through a leadership lens. Our journal leans in on the perspectives of many and offers a fresh perspective on engaging all students. Today, I'm joined by Margaux DelGuidice, who is a teacher librarian at Garden City High School in Garden City, New York. Margaux and I will be talking about engaging all students at the library. Welcome, Margaux.
Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. It's certainly a pleasure to speak with you today on this topic via Google Hangout, and to really supplement a wonderful article that you submitted for the Fall Journal. So thanks again for being with us.
Thank you.
Yeah, I want to just read something from your article and ask you to expand on this just a little bit. You mentioned in there that libraries are no longer these quiet, tomb-like warehouses for dusty old books. And I couldn't agree with you more. I'm wondering, maybe you can explain, what has the 21st century library really transformed into?
Sure. I like to look at it as a learning commons. And it's the one place in the school where students are not expected to know the answers. It's where they go to find the answers. So if you came into my library, you would see students working in groups. You would see them utilizing technology, collaborating together. You would see them gathered around the iPads that we have at our reference bar. But I think the biggest key is that this would all be done under the guidance of a certified school librarian. So we're not throwing the baby out with the bathwater and saying, oh, we have technology, we don't need librarians anymore, or, oh, we have technology, we don't need books anymore. It's not that there aren't books, it's that there's just now room for even more resources and learning how to use everything together, just for a more cohesive, user-friendly experience.
You know, you speak about books and you speak about information and resources. What in your eyes is like the changing context of information? To me, it's almost like an information overload at times, and there's multiple resources to kind of access information. So what is it that our kids today and our teachers today essentially need to be able to do? Can you break that down for me a little bit?
Sure. I really think that we all, not just our students, but teachers, professionals, parents, we all need to learn how to evaluate sources of information because there's just so much out there. So we need to know the difference between finding information, let's say medical information, by doing a Google search or going to a much more reliable database. That's why when we're doing research now with our students, we've embedded within the research assignments that we have at Garden City, within the mandated research evaluation. This is in terms of conducting an annotated bibliography of your sources before you go off and you write that paper, showing your teacher that you've chosen, let's say, the best 10 sources on your topic, and you're not just randomly pulling out the first 4 or 5 hits from Google. Tell my students all the time, I love Google, I love all that they have to offer for education, but you just need to know how to use it to make it work for you. You need to still be a little bit wary of some of the information that you find and understand how to look at a website and look at the Contact Us page or the About Us page, or to take an author's name and put it into Google to find out more information, to look for bias, to make sure that you're using credible, reliable sources. And I can't imagine asking our students to do research just by using the web and this new technology without the guidance of a librarian. I liken it to almost an information lifeguard. So you're not drowning in all of this information overload. You kind of have someone to help you sift through it. It's wonderful that we have this all at our fingertips, but we do still need to figure out a way to manage it all. And that's where a librarian comes in.
So true, so true. You know, as we're talking right now, I'm realizing that there's something very unique about Garden City. You know, in a lot of schools that I've spoken with over the years, you see research is, you know, handled in terms of projects where a particular teacher in a particular department might work with the school librarian, in which those students are very lucky to get that opportunity. But I know that's not only the case in Garden City, and You mentioned just a minute ago about there's this idea of mandated research and how important that is, that it's almost like that kids coming out of Garden City are going to have this set of skills that they need when it comes to research. Could you tell me about how that came to be, the research being mandated? Love to know more about that.
Sure. It began back in 2008, where graduates were actually saying, I went to Notre Dame, or I went to Columbia, and I went to NYU, and I felt prepared, except when it came to the research component of it, because I had Mr. X, and in Mr. X class, you didn't write a paper. In Mr. Y's class, you wrote the paper. So the school board, the superintendents, my principal, everybody said we have to do something to change this. And what they did was they put a 6 through 12 mandated research program in place. It's akin to building blocks. So what they're learning in 6th grade, we're building upon each year. And it really does, to use that word again, and mandates that no matter whose class you're in, you're going to be doing a research paper or some sort of other assignment like an annotated bibliography at least twice a year. Teachers can do other research independent of that on their own, and they do. But this means that everybody in living environment, whether you take it as a 9th or 10th grader, you are writing that annotated bibliography project on alternative energy sources. Everybody in global studies, regardless of whether you're in Regents or AP, you're writing a paper on human rights violations across the globe or on a global issue. It's that consistent experience where you learn how to cite your sources, search for reliable information, use Turnitin as a tool to help students avoid plagiarism rather as like a gotcha tool. You plagiarize, now you fail. We like to show them how to avoid that. And it all really culminates to the point where they're in 12th grade. We no longer need to have those little, baby steps anymore. Now students know they can go directly to the databases. They know how to cite their sources using EasyBib or another citation maker. They understand how to insert parenthetical citations, what the difference is between MLA and APA. So it's been a huge, huge game changer, I think, for our students to know that they're having this experience and that they're going to go away to college a lot more prepared than some of their other peers.
I love how you start off by saying that you kind of interviewed or polled some former students and that they reported back to you that they felt kind of a gap in their own knowledge and you acted on that. That's really important data. I'm pretty sure you had a little bit to do with that also in terms of making that come into play and working with your principal and your directors and your team there at Garden City. And so I wanted to ask you really about the evolving role, not just of the library as a commons, but of the librarian. And so, librarians in your article, you highlight wear many hats. And when the library is the hub of the school, research is simply the beginning. How has the role of librarian evolved? How have you forged those relationships?
I think if you're going to be a librarian in this day and age, don't go into the profession if you expect to just be sitting behind your desk doing Sudoku and closing your door. It's not a quiet job. It's not a job for an introvert. You really, really need to insert yourself within every curriculum area of the school. That doesn't just mean working with the social studies and English teachers. It means that you're going to reach out and get those science teachers in there. It means that you have something that you can show the math teachers. You can help them with technology. I'm helping the math teachers right now set up their Google Classrooms. We're doing lessons together in our library lab. It means that the special area teachers like health, that we have specialized databases for them. Come on down, check them out, let me help you. Every area of the school, it should not just be your core subject areas. Everybody should feel comfortable coming into the library, asking the librarian for help. It's not a burden, it's my job. There's a big button on my desk that says, please interrupt me. This is what I'm here for. But that being said, the librarian must take initiative, yes, but you also do need the support, like you said, of your building principal. I couldn't do what I do without Nan's support. Nanine McLaughlin has been incredible as a principal to have a vision of what a 21st century library should be. And our central office administration as well really pushed for this mandated research that was approved by the school board to make sure that our students were getting this consistent research experience. So I think when you have supportive administrators and a librarian that's willing to take the initiative, then the students are really going to benefit.
You know, speaking of benefiting, I remember visiting Garden City High School. I think it was in 2014. And I remember walking into the library, and you know, you just mentioned just a minute ago, you can no longer sit behind the desk. You know, come in, interrupt me. But I remember feeling a sense of warmth, an invitation when I entered this space, and but on top of it, there was like this flexibility in terms of learning for students and faculty, almost this sense of freedom to self-organize around learning projects. And so my point is that this space was so not limiting. And I'm wondering if this was done by design and what was the thinking there? It's wonderful.
Well, you know, our library is huge. The fire code is actually 500 students, so, and or bodies. And I think a space like that could appear very overwhelming. It could be quite cold just because it is so large. So what we tried to do was carve out different areas for students, for teachers to feel like as if they are welcome. And the setup of the library is constantly evolving. It's not static. So one of the first things that happened when I came on board back in 2009 was we carved out a research lab. So we have that dedicated lab space with 28 desktop computers, teacher workstation, a backlit smartboard, printer, and there's something to be said for having a dedicated lab. We also have 2 Chrome carts in the library, but sometimes it's just nice to have students come in, get right down to work. You don't have to take anything out. You don't have to worry about anything being charged. So I see that remaining static and staying there as an option. We also have a smaller lab of 20 computers for students to use on their own during a lunch period or a senior off period or study hall. We have 12 Macs that can be used if a teacher sends students down to work on an editing project or an art project. And we have 6 iPads that are part of what we call our 21st century reference bar, in that they're mounted on top of low bookshelves where the reference books sit. So you have all of these different areas where students can go to work on something using technology, to sit quietly in a study cubicle or a cubby. Or we also have our pods, which we like to call them, which is movable furniture, which we ordered back in 2009 as well. And that means you can have a setup for small group instruction. You can move them into rows. You can have meetings in the library, and everything's very mutable. Everything's very changeable. It's never the same static kind of situation.
That's great. You know, you mentioned carving out space, whether it be for technology or not technology. You know, this has been a huge component of the librarian's role and the Library Media Center. Speaking of research and digital tools, what would you say are some of the most high leverage tools that our kids need to know how to use and for what purpose?
I'm so excited about Google Classroom and Google Apps for Education. I just feel like that's a huge, huge game changer. Beyond that, I love Turnitin.com, and like I said, I love to use it as a tool to help students understand how not to commit plagiarism, rather than just as a gotcha, you plagiarize, now you fail type of tool. I think students need citation makers also to help them understand how to avoid plagiarism. And really just going back to Google, everything that they offer as far as the Chrome extensions, as far as your Chrome apps, as far as even just helping students to understand Google Drive and how you never have to be attached to a flash drive ever again, and you can access information from anywhere, and how this to help the teachers understand how you can use a Google Doc to provide instantaneous feedback for your students, as opposed to having students wait a week, 2 weeks, a month to get that assignment back. You can help them figure out what did they do correctly, what needs work, how can we work on revising your writing. It's nearly instantaneous. I love that aspect of your Google Apps for Education.
You know, I want to just comment on a very important piece that you mentioned in your article here, and it really has nothing to do with technology. But when you mention the word access, I'm thinking about the way that students have access to you as the librarian of the school. And as kids work on research projects, they may not feel as if it's ready for their teacher. But the relationships that you've built with students over the years, how has that kind of emerged as a capacity building practice? You know, kids coming to you saying, you know, Margaux, I have a question with regards to the development of my thesis. I'm not quite sure where to go with this. You know, and to me, I'm thinking it's about that sign on your desk. Hey, please interrupt me. I think that's probably what happens quite frequently.
Yes. You always know when an assignment is due because I'm pulled in a million different directions. But even before that, students will come and they recognize. I really think, again, because their teachers and the administration recognizes that I'm someone that's here to help you. So we have a writing center. It's staffed by English teachers and teachers from other departments. Unfortunately, there's not a teacher there at necessarily every single period, or sometimes there are busy times and there's overflow, so they know that they can come to the library for that type of help. They know that we can be here for the overflow. I tell them, please come and help me. Please come to me. Please ask me for help. Please interrupt me. But I can't help everybody on the day that the assignment is due. Stephen Colbert had a little skit about that a couple years ago, and I had it posted on my website. Don't wait until the day your assignment is due to contact your librarian. But you know, only because there's one of me. Otherwise, if I could clone myself, I would easily be able to help everybody. You know, the day that something is due. But it's a process. Students know that what they're handing in can always be revised, and they can always come to me, and I can always help them with those revision efforts. And I think it makes the teachers more willing to participate in the research process because a lot of the burden is lifted off of them because they know that they can say, well, go to the librarian will help you. And they don't necessarily have to catch up that student that was absent for 2 days. That's my job to do that. Or if someone new transfers into the class, I can review an assignment with them. So being there to provide that support for the students and the teachers, I think, is what makes the research so successful.
Excellent. You know, we've been talking now for a few minutes about the evolving role of the school librarian, but also the library media center into a learning commons. The thing that jumps out at me about as we talk about both of those items is this idea that both you and your library are in what I like to call perpetual beta. You know, you're always like reinventing yourself, your space. And a big piece of that is professional learning. You know, so I'm wondering what advice or recommendations would you have for educators around the state about investing in their own professional learning, and what sort of strategies have you used that have essentially propelled you so far into this and allowed you to create this exciting environment for your kids in Garden City?
I have to really, I feel that I owe it all to my PLN, to my professional learning network. I would say to any educator, find one, join one. And it could just be as simple as, for the time being, you join Twitter. Maybe you're not sure exactly how to use it, but you start following some really cool people, and you're just lurking and learning, as I like to call it. And from that point on, you start to get these ideas, you start to feel more comfortable, you reach out, and before you know it, you have a group of people that even though you maybe have never met face-to-face, you have such strong relationships and you're able to share information. My journey kind of began with conferences. I would always attend local, state, national conferences, and then I branched out into presenting. And I was very fortunate in that I've always had administrators that have been supportive of that and recognize that. But some librarians, some educators, they don't have that. They don't have the financial means to travel. Maybe they don't have that support. So that's where it's so important to get onto social media, connect with people, do Google Hangouts, form a group in Google+, be on Twitter. Every Monday night, I know I'm going to be participating in a TL chat, that's teacher librarian chat, with librarians from across the world. There's TL News Night on Monday nights. They have just so many different options that even if you don't want to contribute, you can just still kind of watch and learn. So if you don't have the option of attending a conference, maybe you can't go to AASL, which is the national conference, but you could go to a local LISMA meeting, which is the Long Island School Media Association. So it really is, I feel, you know, think globally, think nationally, but act locally. See what's available for you on a smaller scale, and then kind of branch out from there. But don't discount social media. For me, it's just made such a difference. And I have these great friends now. You know, some are in Louisiana, some are in Idaho, and if we ever do get the chance to meet in person, it makes it all the more special. But I feel that support from my PLN, and I think that's what every educator needs, especially in this day and age.
Such a great point, especially in this day and age. You know, I think that, you know, one of the things that we try to do is as leaders in education is to inspire others to take risk and try new things, and we can't do that unless we're modeling that ourselves. And so I truly appreciate the opportunity to speak with you on this very important topic. Thank you for driving such an important conversation across not just Long Island, the state, but really the country, and your continued efforts to make schools even better. So thanks so much, Margaux, for taking the time to talk with me, and look forward to talking soon.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
Take care.
Bye-bye.